Hi, and welcome to Career Management Week 10. The learning objectives this week are around career development and management, the different components, approaches and methods, and the changes that we're experiencing and will continue to experience into the future. We're looking at the importance of career management, the various roles of HRD professionals, individuals and organisations. We're also looking at talent management, coaching and mentoring. So the importance from an organisation's perspective is that failure to invest leads to increased turnover through decreased employee commitment, lack of skill development. As you know, development opportunities are reward and they do help people to stay engaged. From an employee's perspective, if they can't see a career management system, they could feel undervalued, frustrated about the lack of career development and lack of skill development, and that means they may engage in looking for another job, increased job seeking behaviour. So in terms of HRD, just like with our other topics and case studies, we can take different perspectives. So we look at individual perspectives, groups, like teams, departments, divisions, and the overall organisation. It aligns to this idea that we can think about strategies from a micro perspective right through to a macro perspective, as Rosabeth Moss-Cantor shows in her video about zooming in and zooming out. So what is a career? Now, I know that some of you embarked on this in assessment item 1. So it's a career and this is a definition from several decades ago, that a career is a succession of related jobs, and they tend to be arranged in a hierarchy of prestige, where you move in an ordered, more or less predictable sequence. And that's supported by the notion that careers have stages. Is this still true? I guess we'd say no, not necessarily. Hall refers to a career as individual sequence of attitudes and behaviours associated with work-related experiences and activities over the span of a person's lifetime. So importantly, it doesn't imply success or failure. So if you don't get to a particular position, it's up to you to decide whether that is successful for you or not. So you can have very different career goals to the next person. Also, you can include in there voluntary jobs and non-traditional career opportunities. So childcare responsibilities, for example. In this model, we'd say childcare responsibilities can help you develop skills like emotional control, organisation, communication, all those sorts of skills. So this definition is obviously much broader and wider and more accepting of all different types of careers than the earlier one about hierarchy. So there's many things that have changed that you're aware of as well, like the economy, globalisation, diversity, organisational restructuring to try and meet different needs. And then there's micro-level factors. So people are thought to be changing their attitudes to life and work. So younger generations are thinking that having a balance is really important, and they're seeking, many of them are seeking that. As you know too, younger people are not so afraid of changing their job, of changing careers. They feel as if they do have more flexibility. So organisations too have changed, and you no longer hear anything about a long-term career promise necessarily. There's not a strict hierarchy of career progression, and there is really no logical ordered career in many times. It's much more complicated than that. So in terms of careers, we can have individual motivation, the energy to invest in your own career, awareness of direction, what want your career to take, an ability to maintain energy and direction despite the barriers that you'll encounter. So that's that idea of resilience, where you'll overcome these different things that arise, such as being time poor and different things that will happen in your life that can be very complicated. When I was reading in assessment item 1, I could see that many of you had a lot of this. You've got it in spades, career motivation. So you're taking on online study, in many cases, to further your career. So that's certainly not something that's lacking here. And career development is around this series of stages and different sets of developmental tasks and relationships. So although we're younger people are more flexible, and I think everyone can see the importance of building on relationships. So when you first start work, your primary aim is to assess the team, see how you can build those relationships in there. So each career stage. So even though the career stages are much more flexible, you can still identify different stages in a person's career. So you've looked at this again: self-assessment, reality check, goal setting, and action planning as a career management process. Some of you, interestingly enough, mentioned the idea of a reality check coming when your organisation decides that they need to downsize. So your role, in fact, may disappear or change dramatically. And of course, that is a reality check as well, coming from outside, as well as your own feelings, even if there's no particular organisational change. In terms of individual career management, effective career management, you actually have a deep knowledge of yourself and an accurate picture of the environment. So what's out there, what sorts of skills are needed, what's changing, what's on trend at the moment in the career management sector. So development of realistic goals, developmental implication of some strategy, so making some decisions and getting some feedback. So obviously many of you are doing this online course to get that experience and to get that feedback. So that's what we're doing here. So you can see that playing out. Social networking sites, of course, you'd be aware of. Visibility. You can present yourself in a certain way on a social networking site. Interesting question is, are we all great networkers? I think that's an area of interesting research that will come about. Does it attract people who are naturally more outgoing? Or does it appeal to everyone across the board? And also another issue is about fair access to these sites with broadband coverage, cost and speed. So we're hoping that these sorts of courses can be accessed. And the idea of this course originally was to help people in remote areas to access education when it may not have been available. Of course, now it's appealing to a wide group of people for the many reasons you mentioned in assessment item 1, flexibility and helping you to manage complex lives and that sort of thing, which is good. There are interesting factors that are still around, of course, in terms of career management. There can be discrimination on the basis of even things like obesity are seen as career limiting your career opportunities. So there's different things that have been identified. So as a HR professional, you really need to be aware of that and consider whether the organisation that you're involved in is engaged in any discriminatory activities. So model of career development. Every career stage has developmental tasks at the beginning of it, where you're seeking to identify your skills, your fit between yourself and work. you can establish that, maintain that by updating the skills, and then you go through to disengagement, which is retirement. And so what we've been talking about is that this doesn't happen in this actual sequence so much anymore. You might, if you change your career a couple of times, you'll have developmental tasks in each of those times. So that's just interesting to look at and how that might be changing. But as you get older, more experienced, you will be called on to be more of a mentor, coach, or a very supportive colleague. So quite interesting there. So in terms of career models, you've got protein career, which is more a drive for self-fulfillment, self-directed. You take responsibility for managing your own career, and you see that with external consultants, different people who really take hold of their own career and take it forward. There's others, such as a bureaucratic career, which you might find more in the public sector, large private organisations, more traditional. Professional career, which is much more flexible, where you carry out projects, maybe as an external consultant, and then that particular assignment, the results enhance your reputation and knowledge, and then you're invited, or you can apply for other projects. An entrepreneurial career is identified where the employee has independence and control. So that could overlap with the previous professional career, but the person themselves is seen at the centre of that. Boundaryless career, no walls either within or between organisations. So not contained with any particular area. Intelligence careers, no why, no how, no whom. So how do you get a team together? How do you meet project deadlines? How do you organise the evaluation? Those sorts of things. So knowing why, knowing how, and knowing whom can actually help you. And then a subjective career is an interesting idea where it's not for anyone else to judge your career, it's for you. So a traditional versus a protein career. A traditional career is focused around promotions and salary increases, security, where you tend to be thinking about going up an organisation vertically. You do think the organisation has responsibility for providing opportunities. You want to be expert and have expertise, and there is some heavy reliance on formal training. So in other words, a degree. Protein career, on the other hand, is much more about psychological success and flexibility. Promotion is not so much about vertical, it can be lateral into different projects. The employee is responsible. The pattern is much more fluid and greater reliance on relationships and experiences. So they're the differences between traditional protein careers, and in reality I think a lot of careers these days are somewhere in the middle there. They're not necessarily entirely traditional, and they're not necessarily entirely protein. So with career management, organisations are interested in career management because they really want to retain their good employees and maximise their contribution. That can be through effective commitment, so where the person feels emotionally attached and involved and identifies with the organisation, and engaged, where their employees are willing to put in effort and be involved in relation to the organisational goals. So they'll come along, for example, to a weekend function to help an organisation because they're really interested in it. And then there's other ways as well. There's many other ways that fit in here. So mentoring, coaching, networking, funding learning opportunities, providing work experiences, say helping people rotate through different jobs, really promoting development initiatives, letting people know about it and encouraging them, and supporting career moves, maybe to change careers in the same organisation. And there is a checklist in your textbook on page 328 to 329, which is interesting to have a look at. We've talked about return on investment before, and as a complex type of approach, and it is hard to measure. So if you're talking about talent management, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but if an individual star is attracted into an organisation, is their success quicker because of the career structure talent development program, or is it that that individual perhaps would have done well regardless of the environment? So the actual measurement of some of these career management foci is quite difficult. This is an example of a career management system, and you can see the organisational strategies, and underneath there is career pathing and development. These are some of the ones particularly of interest to us, as well as succession. So these are a way of setting out what an organisation is planning to do. This is just an example of helping employees to understand what is available, what learning resources are there, for example. So that can all be managed much more easily now on the intranet in an organisation. So they must be evaluated, of course, these management systems, in terms of outcomes. So what is the evidence, the concrete measurable outcomes? So one way is through the reactions of stakeholders. How did employees and management find the system? And you'd find that out, of course, through questionnaires or other methods such as interviews. And also you can track the career management system. So, for example, you can actually count perhaps the number of promotions from within an organisation in 1 year compared to another, or the number of employees even using the system, what percentage, and is that changing, or the number of people who are looking at this and responding in all sorts of areas. So just in overview, you can identify roles in career management and development, but these are just examples, and of course they overlap. So employees can really identify their own career and development stages, ask for feedback, take advantage of learning opportunities, network as best they can, and create visibility through good performance. Managers, of course, they can coach, they can listen, they can give feedback, they can advise on options, goal setting, make recommendations, and link people up to career planning resources. HRD professionals, HRD managers also are responsible for making sure that there are training and development opportunities that are suitable. They can provide career counselling, help with job searches, and offer specific training and development opportunities such as career workshops. Organisations can assist in successful career planning by, say, teaming up a new person with a mentor from the beginning to help that person negotiate their way through the organisation. Organisations can help develop career paths as much as they can, and develop, monitor and evaluate a career management system. So talent management, I'll mention briefly here, is an interesting perspective. It's a process of attracting, developing, managing particular people. You may have heard of the term war for talent, which was this competition really between organisations to attract and develop and retain high-performing staff. Of course, they want them to be instrumental in delivering outstanding organisational performance, so they could pay these people extra, basically, to attract them in, for example. There has, since the recession, some years ago now, there's been much more of a focus away from that idea of fighting for talent. It's more, okay, let's develop and retain who we've got in-house, rather than always looking outside. And it's been noted that there is some reduction in talent management and a focus on talent development. So some of the focuses there are, this is what talent management is more about, looking at key individuals or stars. The other side is a much more inclusive perspective, which is everyone has talent and potential. So that's a key issue with talent management. There's been quite a bit of work done on how to actually identify people who are talented within an organisation and make talent pools. It's important to stimulate debate in this way, but it can be discriminatory. So, for example, it can just relate perhaps to people who can, in fact, be in the organisation. They're very obvious because they work long hours. Whether that's efficient or not is another issue. Talent pools, they're groups of individuals identified by the organisation as potential high performers. They're provided with learning, mentoring and networking opportunities, and they'll be offered secondment roles, development roles, which can be part of a succession plan. So it is an interesting perspective, and someone like Google has a talent pool for IT specialists and customer service staff. That is how they want people to be really developing in Google. It's the idea that you can also have a flow of talent for people who might be retiring or resigning, but there are equity issues, so it's important to assess that and make sure that everyone is being given due consideration. Coaching came from improved sports performance. It's a one-on-one relationship focused on specific behavioural change, work and or performance improvement. So a new manager might need to be coached in their emotional responses to challenging situations or difficult questions, or they might need coaching on how to chair a meeting effectively, etc. So coaching can be used to employee performance, develop leadership skills and help employees with their careers, to tackle poor performance, and to assist development, culture change, communication and diversity goals. So coaching by online managers is seen as quite an effective method after in-house development programs, so general development programs. But coaching can be problematic because the actual match between the two has to be quite good. They have to have a good relationship. The coach has to be very skilled so that they're teaching in a very effective way. So there's lots of different issues there. Coaching culture is when an organisation has coaching embedded into it. However, that goes, they might, for example, have master coaches, and they might be people who are quite consistently put on to teach leadership skills, for example. Leaders define the coaching culture and promote it as a way to really help people improve their skills. Peer coaching is interesting because that actually avoids the power relationship that you might have in a coaching relationship. So it might be difficult for you to really be coached by your manager. It might be easier within a peer-to-peer relationship. One model of coaching is the GROW model. G for the goals, reality, can that be done? What are the options, and how do we commit to action? And of course you'd want to put evaluation in there too, I know. Okay, so mentoring is also similar to coaching, but it's much more about the long term. So it has been defined in many different ways. One is offline help by one person to another in making significant transition in knowledge, work or thinking. So while coaching is immediate, more short term, on behaviours that are affecting current performance, mentoring is much more medium to long term, focused on future potential. So someone who's been in the organisation a long time could be mentored to someone who's come in just new. There's been lots of good, happy stories, and there's been some problems. For example, a mentor might take credit for a mentee's success. There could be sexual harassment, neglect through lack of interest, direction, or some abuse of power. There could be discrimination against women and ethnic minorities if, for example, they are overlooked for mentoring opportunities, for example. It can reinforce the values of the dominant group in the organisation. But if it works well, it certainly can be a very positive way to helping people get to know an organisation, develop over time, and it's much more based on a longer term relationship than coaching. So mentoring is popular. It does help mentees gain skills and confidence, and mentors can gain satisfaction from passing on knowledge. Certain studies have shown that engagement and commitment can be improved, and there's evidence of mentoring has a positive effect on leadership capability, so positive impact on leader efficacy and overall performance of a leader. So the actual informal nature of mentoring can be problematic in that it can become more of a friendship thing, but ideally in work it can be partly friendship, but it is really should be based on long-term career. So e-mentoring might be of course of interest in that with e-mentoring you don't really have those perceptions of age, gender, ethnic background. You do have a record of interactions, reduces face-to-face interactions, which of course can make it difficult to maintain, but at the same time it can be very productive for others. So it's important to match up mentors, mentees, and if e-mentoring is suitable, that could be a way to go. So in conclusion, career management is important to individuals and organisations for reasons of productivity, morale, efficiency, employee retention, as well as engagement, etc. Needs of the individual can change as a result of what career stage they're in, where they're going with that. Career management systems can play a role in maximising career motivation, so those structures that can be developed, especially with the help of the internet, but also other ways that organisations look at, so creating a coaching culture, for example. Responsibilities for career management is moving more to employees from organisations. It's probably some sort of in a spot in between being organised by individuals in a boundaryless protean way and by an organisation. Usually there's some sort of mix of those two. So there are many factors, of course, that impact on career development, internal and external factors, personal circumstances, opportunities, that sort of thing. We're interested in whether diversity might have an impact on this, whether people of different cultures are experiencing success or difficulty in progressing their careers. And we note that when we're talking about career strategies here, we are focused on Western notions of career. I guess that's what's researched and what's most available to us at this time. So next week we're going to be talking a bit more about diversity and cross-cultural HRD. Thanks very much.